Welcome, bienvenidos. This is Roxana from Metamorphosis Rocks, and today we are going to talk about a dude called Myron. And, well, actually, we're not going to talk so much about Myron. We're going to talk about what he said and why he's trending on social media. Now, Myron is a commentary person who has a podcast, who has a habit of inserting food in his mouth. And this particular segment that he did recently has been doing rounds all over social media because what he said is not only abhorrent, but it's also a reminder of how Germany ended up in the little pickle they ended up in the 1920s and 30s. So, for reference, I am not playing the clip. I'm telling you right now, I'm not playing the clip. I'm just telling you a summarized version of what he said. And yes, I don't watch his show, but I did watch the clip. And no, I don't care about context because it's this minute and 22 seconds that are running around social media, it's pretty self-explanatory. He basically said that the ills of the world are the fault of feminism, and that the people that were supporting and pushing feminism were the Jews. He then went on to say, it's not because I'm anti-Semitic, not in those words, but this is what he meant. I will criticize anybody wherever. Okay. I believe based on what he said, I will criticize blacks, and he used the N-word because he is black. I will criticize Asians. He went through pretty much every Latinos, and then he said Arab. I will even do Arabs. And the way he said it, it sounded to me like he is Arab. I don't know who he is. All I know is that every time I've seen him on social media, he is opening mouth, inserting foot. So, but this particular one was interesting to me because he mentioned feminism and he mentioned the Jewish people. Now, the person, if you look at the screenshot, the person that reposted his comment mentioned that this is how the Germany myth started, okay? I can't use that word on social media or I get demonetized, so that's why I'm not using the word. But it starts with an N and it ends with an I. Anyway, let me give you a little rundown of the feminist movement, because I find it fascinating every time somebody decides to blame women for their problems, because it always is women. Oddly enough to me, if you go to the Bible, there are certain women that are very popular in the Bible, and for good reasons. Esther being one of them, and Virgin Mary being the other one. Mary was there with Jesus through the whole thing. So, in the mind of somebody like Myron, that would still be blaming the Jews because Mary was Jewish and so was Jesus before he was the head of the Christian movement, okay? That's how warped these people are. But let's not go left or right with this. So he mentioned specifically Gloria Steinem. So because he mentioned Gloria Steinem, and because I know a little bit of Gloria Steinem's history, I didn't know as much as I know now, but I did know a little bit of Gloria Steinem's history. I know that Gloria Steinem always talked about Margaret Sanger. If you've been in the channel before, hi, how are you? I can't stand Margaret Sanger or anything she stood for because she was responsible for the plan to sterilize the island of Puerto Rico, where I'm from, and particularly my mother was one of their victims. Because he mentioned Gloria Steinem, I went and I looked up Planned Parenthood, which is considered the beginning of the second wave of feminism, okay? I'm sorry, the first wave. Well, she was kind of sort of, she was the person that Gloria Steinem, who is the mother of the second wave of feminism, she's the person she admired. So let's look at Margaret Sanger for a second and her cohorts. Margaret Sanger, just so you know, her real last name is Higgins. Sanger is her married name. Margaret Sanger, she was raised Irish Catholic. Just so you know. Her cohorts were Fania Mendel. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. I'm sorry. She was Russian-born Jew. Okay. But Planned Parenthood was founded by 3 women. Margaret Sanger. Yes, I'm looking at my notes. Fania Mendel. And the other one was one Ethel Byrne. Ethel Byrne. Byrne is her married name. Her maiden name was Higgins. And yes, you heard that before because that is Margaret Sanger's maiden name. These 2 sisters, obviously born and raised in Irish Catholic home, and one Jewish person. So let's be real, 66% of the population in this particular team were not Jewish, founded Planned Parenthood. Okay. Now, I know that if this person if Myron decided to go and do a little digging, he would find out that Margaret Sanger got that name because at some point she was married to William Sanger, who was an architect, a German-born Jew. Just so you know, yes, Margaret Sanger converted later on in life, but she converted to Episcopalian, not Jewish. She never converted to Judaism. So his point is mute on that. But let's go to Gloria Steinem, shall we? Because Gloria Steinem is the mother of the second wave of feminism that went on between 60s, 70s, and early 80s. And Gloria Steinem was born from a woman who happened to be a Presbyterian. Now, Gloria Steinem's father was Jewish. But let's keep in mind that they got divorced when she was 10. Gloria's mom was insane, clinically insane, which actually formed the basis of Gloria Steinem's life goal, because she felt like her mother was being treated badly by the medical profession, because basically they would not take her very seriously, but that's a topic for another video. And she also couldn't keep a job, which Gloria Steinem associated with the fact that she was a woman, not the fact that she was insane. Ironically, she didn't blame her father for leaving her mother. She thought, he couldn't handle the mental situation. But she blamed everybody else. But that's another topic for another day. And by the way, just because I'm saying that doesn't mean that I don't think she's right or wrong. I'm just saying. So Gloria Steinem was not necessarily raised into the Judaism faith. I don't know. I didn't find enough information. Does she consider herself Jewish? Yes. But she wasn't raised that way. Okay. Now, more interestingly, when I started doing the research, I decided, because it was the second wave, was the Gloria Steinem wave. The first wave was back in the 18th and the 1900s. But the actual first known feminist statement was made by no one other than Plato, who was born somewhere between 423 and 428 BC, before Christ, and passed away in 348 BC. And the statement that he made, he argued for the total political and sexual equality of women, advocating that they be members of his highest class, those who rule and fight. This is a statement by Elaine Hoffman Baruch. Baruch Elaine Hoffman. The name of the book is Women in Men's Utopias, in Roerich, Ruby, and Elaine Hoffman Baruch editors. Women in Search of Utopia, blah, blah, blah. Page 211, Plato supporting childcare so women could be soldiers. So that was the first ever statement that has been considered to be related to feminism. That was before Christ, by the way. Then we have in the 15th century a young lady by the name of Cristina de Piazza, who wrote, let me see if I find it. Christine de Pizan. Italian-French writer Christine de Pizan was the author of the Book of the City of Ladies. And she is cited by Simone de Beauvoir, I don't know how to say that, as the first woman to denounce misogyny and write about the relation to the sexes. So even in the 1500s, Mind you, when he talks about feminism being the root of all evil, the fact that he mentioned Gloria Steinem leads me to think that he's talking about the 60s and the 70s. There's nothing worse than a completely ignorant man. And if there's something worse than a completely ignorant man, it's how these men are all over social media, warping the minds of people. We're having a really big problem with people changing history, changing facts, providing misinformation on the daily on social media, which is really crazy because when you think about it, social media has the power to inform and educate people while at the same time misinforming and completely destroying the education of people. People need to be a little bit more aware and develop some common sense. Feminists, there's a lot of reasons why society is a disaster. Feminism is not necessarily one of them. The fact that women finally found the balls to leave men who are abusive, which by the way, Ethel Byrne, Margaret Sanger's sister, she divorced her husband. I don't think she divorced. I think she left him. But I don't know that they ever got divorced because he was abusive. Men like Myron want their women submissive, want their women to stay home and take care of the children. They have a problem with women developing a personality and a life. Now, if you are secure in your masculinity, if you are secure as a man, you would not have a problem with a woman having a personality, education, a life. Because then that would mean that your marriage is because she wants to be there, not because she needs you. Because one of the things that I find very ironic of people that are fans of Myron and Andrew Tate and Nick Fuentes and all these other men that are, oh, men are men, blah, 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 is that they have this dual thing about wanting a submissive woman who takes care of the children and takes care of the home, while at the same time blaming said women because they cannot make ends meet and sometimes have to work 2 jobs to be able to support the family that they wanted to have. Because nothing is more amazing to people than the past. One of the problems that I've always had with Make America Great Again, the slogan, not the political movement, the slogan itself, is the fact that it has been scientifically proven that we have a habit of making the past look better than it was. Now, that doesn't mean that if you haven't had a traumatic experience, you're going to make it better than it was. No, I'm talking about regular life. And I'm going to give you a very simple example. I grew up in a household with both parents. We were 4, 2 boys, 2 girls. The boys left before, and I mean leave by, my brothers were 10 and 14 years older than me. So when I can remember my life, one of my brothers was in the military and the other one was going to college and left the home, okay? So I did not grow up necessarily with them all the time on my memories. But I know for a fact that they were the ones who raised me because they were helping my mom take care of us, right? I've always made so much of a deal about the life that we had, not realizing that, number one, money lasted a lot longer back then. My dad was the only one working, but they had their struggles too. I just didn't see it because I was a kid and I don't remember. One of the biggest things that I've always thought about this whole thing about Make America Great Again is that people are thinking about the 50s and the 60s, but they're thinking about the picket fence and the mom, the dad, the 2 kids, and the dog. They're not thinking about the realities of the lives of the people that came before them in the case of both poor people and lower middle class people. And what I mean by that is that the rest of us did not live that life. Now, mind you, I saw glimpses of that life. Puerto Rico is a little different than the United States on that respect, but I had a very good life growing up. But when I look at it now and I realize what my parents had to do to be able to give us that life, it wasn't that pleasant for them. But they did the best that they could. And one of the problems that I have when parents don't tell their kids the truth of what they're going through is precisely this, that we tend to glorify the past as if it was so great when in reality it wasn't. Now, for men who are misogynists, that life is fantastic because the woman says nothing, does nothing but serve her man. And that might seem like a great life. But if you actually look back on it, how many of those men were cheating on their wives because they were not fulfilled at home? And why is it that you think it's okay for a man to cheat to be happy? The other day, Nick Fuentes berated one of his viewers, listeners, whatever it is, because the guy apologized because he hadn't listened to a podcast or something because he was with the wife and family. And Nick Fuentes proceeded to call him all kinds of names because how dare you, like, put your wife, make your wife more important. Oh, I guess you're sitting there playing with dollies with your kids. What kind of man are you? That is a perfect father, by the way. The only problem I have with that father is that he actually felt the need to apologize to Nick Fuentes. It is what it is. So as far as Myron is concerned, I don't know what he means that feminism, number one, was pushed by Jewish people, because I don't think Plato was talking to Jewish people. Do your research. I'm not going to do everything for you. And number two, this has been going on since before any of us existed. So I don't see how you're going to blame feminism, which you should have said the second wave of feminism, be more specific since you were talking about Gloria Steinem, instead of just blaming feminism as a rule, because the reality is there's a lot of, you know what I think is the biggest problem to society's ills right now? The fact that both the mom and the dad have to work sometimes 2 jobs each to be able to make ends meet. The fact that we no longer have weekends off. We have to work Tuesday through Saturday, Wednesday through Sunday, or split the week or whatever. Very few families have the luxury of having a mom and a dad where the mom can afford to stay home and the father can work Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day, 8 hours a day, no more than that, and come home and be able to pay the rent and pay everything. You have to look at everything. The level of education of people is different. The level of what we are willing to stand for is different. People were not as culturally, as politically, as economically aware as they are now. Unfortunately, many of them are incorrectly informed, but it is what it is. So no, Myron, feminism was not the root of all evil, and definitely Jewish people have nothing to do with that. There's people on all sides, on all religions, of all races and genders who have good things and bad things, and their contributions have made this happen. And feminism isn't one of them. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.